مواقع متعددة مثل واو، أويل، كواجوك، يامبيو، بور، رنج، ملكال وباليت، وبيضمن أقصى قدرة من التغطية والتأثير.
التواجد الإقليمي: بتمتد بصمة آي راديو إلى ولاية غرب وشمال بحر الغزال، غرب والاستوائية الوسطى، جونغلي، أعالي النيل وواراب. من خلال التعاون مع آي راديو يمكنك التواصل مع المجتمعات المتنوعة والجماهير المستهدفة في المناطق ديل.
مشاركة المجتمع: الشراكة مع آي راديو بتعني التعامل مع مجتمعات على مستوى الشعبي. رسالتك حتوصل للمستمعين في مواقع مختلف، مما يعزز التفاعلات الهاتفة ويزيد الوعي بعلامة تجارية.
التغطية الشاملة: مع محطات في مواقع استراتيجية زي الرنج، ملكال وباليت، بتوفر آي راديو تغطية شاملة بتصل إلى كل من المراكز الحضرية والمناطق الريفية. بتضمن شراكتك مع آي راديو الرؤية عبر منطقة جغرافية واسعة.
ما تفوت فرصة توسيع نطاق رسالتك باستخدام آي راديو. شارك أو أعلن معنا الليلة وخلي صوتك مسموع في جميع أنحاء جنوب السودان.
شكرا لكم مستمعين الكرام لصغة بتاعكم الكبير في آي راديو من حيث الأخبار والمعلومات. صغة بتاعك في آي راديو ذات من صغة الصحفيين عشان يلتزموا بنشر أخبار وبرامج الموزونة، ذات مصداقية للإعلام والتصغيف والترفيه. نتيجة للكلام ده وصل عدد متابعين آي راديو لأكثر من 17 مليون نفر في فيسبوك حسب مقاييس فيسبوك في السنوات الثلاث الفات، عدد أكبر من عدد سكان جنوب السودان. وللحصول على تحليل إخباري مفصل قم بزيارة موقع آي راديو الإلكتروني www.iradio.org. اشترك أو اعمل إعجاب بقناة آي راديو على يوتيوب عشان تحصل لأحدث مقاطع فيديو الجديدة عندنا. آي راديو أينتكم في جنوب السودان.
هل انت شاب وبتفتش عن برنامج تعليمي؟ زون 72 برنامج خاص لك انت، بيتم فيه مناقشة كتير من المواضيع اللي بخصك، وفيه انت ممكن كمان تعبر عن رأيك وتتواصل مع شباب بنفس تفكيرك. زون 72 بيجيكم في كل يوم السبت من الساعة 4 مساء للساعة 5 مساء على الهواء وعلى الإنترنت فقط على آي راديو. عينك على جنوب السودان.
Yes, good evening, listener of iRadio. Welcome to Zone 72 Youth Program, a program that comes to you every Saturday from 4 to 5 p.m. I am your host, Baria Johnson, and I also have with me in the studio Adede Pascaline, who is our sign language interpreter, stepping in for Grace and Vico. Zone 72 highlights on the rights and choices for all adolescents and youth, and it emphasizes on the three-pillared global strategy for adolescents and youth, putting young people at the center of sustainable development. Zone 72 Youth Program is in collaboration with the South Sudan Ministry of Health, South Sudan Nurses and Midwives Association, Shabab Le Shabab, Canadian Association of Midwives, and UNFPA. The program is funded by the Government of Canada as part of Human Resource for Sexual and Reproductive Health and Rights and Gender-Based Violence in South Sudan. To comment on today's program, you'll be calling us on our studio lines, that is 0911 or 0922-986-986, and for text messages sent to 0913-986-986. You can also stream this broadcast live by logging onto our website, that is www.iradio.org, or on our Facebook page, that is iRadio. If you have questions about adolescent health, send us an email to youthzone72@gmail.com or call 0922 009497. We have two hotlines and they are toll free. If you want to report on GBV, you can call 623, and if you want to report anything on adolescent health immediate, call 885. Today we are diving into an interesting topic, that is mental health, but we'll be focusing on stress, depression, and trauma. Mental health is the cornerstone of our well-being, yet it often remains overlooked or misunderstood. In today's discussion, we'll focus on three critical aspects of mental health, that is stress, depression, and trauma. And to shed more light on our topic of today, I'm happy to be joined in the studio by Emmanuel Lobijo, who is the founder of Junub Open Space. We also have with us in the studio and Zoa Fortunate, who is the Program Officer for Protection with Humanity and Inclusion. Good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, good evening, Anzoa.
Good evening.
It's good to have both of you in the studio to be discussing this topic. Yes, you'll be given a chance later on, listen of iRadio, to call in and ask the guest your questions. Also, those who are following us on our Facebook live stream, you can drop your questions and comments there, and the guest will be able to answer them later on. Yes, Anzoa, let me start with you. Can you define to us what stress, depression and trauma is in a layman's language so that our listeners can have better understanding?
Thank you, and I'm quite grateful for this host this evening. Basically, we are going to have a basic understanding of these three words you have just said, or terms I would say. That is stress, depression, and then as well as trauma. In a very simple language, when we are understanding stress, stress is specifically a state of worry or a mental tension that is caused by a difficult situation. And stress is basically, it's a natural human response that prompts you to address challenge or a threat in your life or in your daily living. I would say, for example, you can get stressed by a very small stimuli. For example, if you let's say tomorrow you have an exam and you're told, or you have a test and you're just informed in a short time, and you have not even prepared yourself, and you feel you have not read enough, you will obviously get a bit stressed because you do not know what you would encounter at the end of the day. So that challenge that comes, your body will respond. Yes. And then when we are looking at this, depression is, in a simple way, is just a disorder of your mood, your feeling. Okay, it's a disorder of the mood that causes a persistent feeling of like sadness, loss of interest in things and activities that you normally often enjoy in your daily life. For example, if, let me say, Emmanuel is a fan of soccer, but you find that at the end of the day, a trigger that comes as a result of the stress makes him to lose his interest to engage in watching the football. Okay, so he becomes a little bit, let me say, loses the interest, and he's stressed of that environment. And then with trauma, it's when we experience a very stressful or a frightening or a distressing event that are difficult to cope with or even out of our control. And it could be one incident or an ongoing event that happens over a long period of time in your life. And most of us, we often also experience an event in our life that could even be considered as traumatic. Okay, I just want to highlight, for example, me as an individual. At one point, I boarded a vehicle. Okay, and in my feeling, looking at the vehicle I have boarded, I felt quite safe, knowing that it looked in a very proper mechanical situation. But reaching halfway, the tires burst, and you are running off-road. Okay, and here the vehicle is overturning with you. You can imagine that kind of you're already worried of, one, your safety, your life at a hand, and secondly, you do not know what comes out of you in that situation. So I got traumatized. I even broke down at the end of the day, that when I got to the facility and recovered from the injury I gained, I kept having the episodes in my, every time I get into a public means and I'm driven, I am already worried like I would have a similar experience. Yeah. So those are specifically what I could cite in terms of understanding what stress is, and the depression as well as trauma.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Emmanuel, what do you think are some of the the most common causes of stress, depression, or trauma here in the country, and how are South Sudanese dealing with mental health crisis traditionally, either among men or women?
All right. Thank you so much for for asking this very important question, and I would like also to thank my colleague for sharing that elaborative definition on the key topic. You know, there are a number of situations or things that actually makes people stressed, depressed, or even traumatized. And with a country like South Sudan, we experience that daily. Almost, I can say almost everyone is stressed or traumatized in one way or the other, or even depressed in South Sudan. And those who start from work related stress or trauma or depression to the economic situation that is really, really changing every day, and then also so many demands from our society, from our friends, from our families, and all those ones actually are some of the key causes to stress, trauma, and depression. And you know, whenever as a young person in South Sudan, let me maybe start with the men. When we share like, hey, I am really not okay today, I had a bad day. And you know, like many men, every day when they wake up in the morning, the first thing they put is like, today I had this for my family, what will my family eat tomorrow? So they're asking themselves this question, whether if they go, will they come back with a cavera later on for something for tomorrow? That key question, because when you mention the definition of stress, that is, it's like, best example is journalists. You know, they carry bags full of equipment. They don't want to leave any equipment, right? They have to go with it, camera, everything in their backpack. But imagine they're going to stay with it the whole day because they don't want to put the equipment down. It might get lost. That is exactly how stress is. It weighs you down. It carries, it drains you. It sucks that energy out of you. And very many South Sudanese goes through that in a daily basis. And you know, when she mentioned that you actually start losing feelings for certain things, I'm like, yeah, that is depression actually. You know, almost appetite for everything almost disappear. You know,
True.
You wanted to do something that really interests you, and then at the end you feel like, what if I even go and do it, what will I gain out of it? Some people even they start saying like, I don't even need to go to work today because like, what will I get? Yesterday I went and I did not get anything, and today I don't think I can really get something even. You know that. And that loss of appetite on those key interesting things that once really excite you, they don't excite you anymore, and you just feel like it is normal. And that is a young man in South Sudan. That is what a young man in South Sudan goes through every day. And I don't need to mention social media here, because that is also another heavy weight of, you know, these days people are not only consumers of information, they're also curators. And the fact that people are not only consumers, again, people are also creators of those information. So everyone have the power to create their own information. And that is it. You know, that information disorder and the fact that you're already having so much going through you, and now with that little bit of information that is being spiced up with some samar and all those, you know, it will totally shut so many people down. And in South Sudan, I think there's some really key important things when it comes to coping up in most of these what we just mentioned, like when it comes to stress. I think, you know, our society in South Sudan is a little bit changing. A lot back in then, people do storytelling as a better means to actually come up out of those surges, those stress related things. And like for men, they can go and sit in their cycle, and then they can share out their stories and all those. And then if it is a lady, she can go to the aunt. If it is what, but come on, we are not in that same era again. This era of ours is a very tight era, that if someone really do not look at those culture or those past related issues on how society solve issues does not work anymore, or they work because the fact that they teach values of respect and all those ones and resilience. But right now I think it need to be really added, and people need to accelerate on how better to respond to some of those issues, and most especially when it comes to those critical topics that we're just talking about here. Culture changes, so people need to change their response to those things. Because like right now, if I start crying right now on the street, people will be like, I think this guy is becoming mad now.
Yeah, this is the most common use to
exactly. Yeah, they feel like men should not cry. You should not even men alone, you should not cry on the street. No, maybe if it is a woman, people will come like, hey, what is happening? Are you okay? They will ask. But a man, they'll be like, they call us Jenin. It's a common word they say a lot. Yeah. But the fact that people fear sharing that because they feel like they will be called names or they will be shut down before even they share, I think makes it really not the same society as back in then. Ours is really changing. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
Just I just want to re-echo a bit of what Emmanuel has just said. I think to me the biggest aspect that is rooted in the community is the stigma aspect.
Exactly.
And at the end of the day, many people struggle with this let me say the stress, the depression, and the trauma, the aspect, and they struggle in silence. Somebody cannot come out to speak freely about what he or she is experiencing as an individual. And if you look at previously, day back traditionally, how it is also handled or dealt with, you realize that if somebody manifests with the typical impressions or signs of let me say stress or depression as a youth, you are misquoted. For me, I was trying to interact with an elderly woman in the household, and she shared with me her experience of saying that for a young girl who presents with depression, and you have, let me say, you've lost interest to do engagement in household of doing the cleaning and cooking and even having interest to eat food, people don't look at asking how you can be helped, but you at the end of the day, this young girl is kept away. You are hidden from the face of the family. It reaches to a point that you are chained in the house. You'll be tied down because you give a very bad picture about the family. But they could not understand what has brought it out. So those are some of the dynamics in the days back. And to me, it's up to today, it continues. If you find a very young a boy, or I should say a youth in the house, and he's maybe stressed because of I should say now looking at our current situation, okay, this youth is exposed to this having high chances of being stressed, and the father or the mother or the caregivers in the house would interpret this youth totally different. They presume that maybe this youth has been abusing abusing drugs, in the house. And at the end of the day, this youth would be treated in a very, I would say, not handled with the way he could come out with you know. Yeah, so those are some of the current situations I understand with the youths that come out as really aspects of this stress based on our context now.
Yeah,
Yes,
and just to add on, I know the people listening from a different part of South Sudan, and also those ones online. I want to tell them that if they're here listening to this conversation, they just need to know one thing that is really very important, is that however much or wage of the stress, depression, and the trauma they're carrying on, they need to know that they're not alone. They need to know that we're here and their loved ones are there for them, because all of them matter. All of them have a purpose. So let them live for that purpose.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Also, Emmanuel, I would love both of you to share your experiences in case you have undergone depression before. You can maybe take us through that and how did you overcome it? I understand Anzoa shared her short story of how she was traumatized after the accident she had. So we can also hear from you in case you have gone through depression before. And how did you overcome? How was the journey? Was it easy? So that those who are listening also will learn from it.
Yeah. I would like to start by saying that I'm sharing this not to look for sympathy, but I would like to assure them that the fact that I've gone through all those and I've overcome them, they can also overcome them. And it is only by you sharing out, and then you'll only realize that actually the wage that you're carrying is not heavier than the wage of another person. From my side, I think there's really so much that have weighed me down several times, and I'm glad that I'm bouncing back, and I am able to move out of those dark holes that I feel being tied and trapped in. I think just with the status of being born and raised in a refugee camp, seeing firsthand conflicts and a number of terrible sins in your eyes as a young person growing up, living alone with you and your mother and your brothers without your father, only hearing about his existence when before he passed away, and situations such as myself and my mother living in my uncle's house and being given 24 hours to pack and leave out the house, really asking the question of like, okay, where do I go out from here right now? I think that moment I feel the world was shutting down, because I don't know, I cannot say that I was young already, because I was carrying responsibilities in the head. So though I was in my young age, but then I have to make sure that we have to honor the 24 hours that was given, and move to a rented place by all means. And also situations such as receiving calls of situation that really burned you down, of my uncle, whom I can say is my other uncle, not the same uncle which is us from the house. My other uncle, who have really stood with me when I really needed someone to stood by me. I was running to pay the bills of my wife, dowry, and I raised half of it, and I needed someone whom I can give to and take the letter to the in-law, because I cannot face my in-law. They will see it as an insult. And you make calls and nobody listens to you, and only that one person who stood up at the end of the day, and you're able to, with his support, the letter was able to be reached and the situation was calm. And only to hear that a week after 2 weeks to hear that he passed away broke me and shut me really down. And situation such as I started my business properly, and only to find someone coming with a lot of charges, unreasonable charges, just in order to shut your business down as a social entrepreneur. That really also contribute to my depression. I think there's really a lot of other things. Me and my brother, we have a family of 15. Okay, we're few, but we have to figure out our way. Dropping out of school, not because I intend to drop, but because I don't have the choice to continue. So all those actually contributed so much on how I was let down. And the last recent one was when I had accident, a very terrible accident, and I had a fracture on my leg. When I came back home that evening, I was brought home. So that night was a terror in my mind. It keeps on coming over. I keeps on reflecting on that very moment of me saying, hey, take the car, I'll take a brother. I feel like I should have actually dropped those friends of mine home, and then I'll again ride back with the car, because the place was not, the car was full. So I step out from the car. I gave the key to my friend to drive the friends home, and then I'll take a border, because there was a mic, a recorder that I need to take together. After today, I can tell you that every time I pass from that road, because that is the road to my house, every time I pass by, it keeps on coming to me. And through all this, I figure out how to maneuver my way in it. And I think also one that I almost want to forget, I know there are many, but this one I think is one critical one. And of course I would like to thank all the amazing friends who stood by me. When I lost my wife and my kids from the house, it's a mystery that something that we didn't expect to happen. They left from the house with the intention of visiting the mom, and then they don't know what happened. The next thing, when I shared the pictures online, that is when only I was able to get help from the people who shared the pictures. And I think in a few hours we were able to get, the following day we were able to get information that they were in Nimule, and that is when I was able to bring them home. But that trauma of having too many people to answer to, you have to answer to your in-laws, you have to answer to your parents, you have to answer to people who don't believe your story, who don't think it actually happened like that. There are people who fabricate, who have their own thinking or their own expectation of what they wanted the story is supposed to be, but it's not exactly how it is. So all those moments, I think I found my way out of it.
Okay.
Yes, I did.
Hanzo, let's hear from you also.
Yeah.
Emmanuel has he has spoken, and it's quite a challenging one. And to me, as an individual, I've just at the beginning I shared my experience of boarding a public means, and where I got involved in an accident. And as he says, whenever you encounter that particular spot, it takes your mind back of how it has happened. And if you are not really strong, it puts you down. You begin having a feeling of why me? You have a lot of questions in to answer for yourself. At one point I also had a very depressing situation where I had a cousin brother whom I was with in a medical school back days in Uganda. And it happened that we came back for holidays to do clinical practice, and we have to attach to one of the hospitals. So the place where we stay is quite a distant, and we coordinate on using the public means. So you come in the morning and you do your service voluntary to the community, and you go back because it's a learning phase. At the same time, you're giving to the community your service. So he's a very young, energetic boy who was doing clinical medicine. One evening, we are just taking a walk. Yes, and he told me, no, I have something that I'm catching up for. So surprisingly, I said, okay, I pause, please proceed. Yes, left me at a trading center, and he picks a motorbike himself from a friend and rides, and he goes and gets crushed. I wasn't in the spot, and somebody called and says, fortunate, so and so has been smashed. And you rush to the scene, looking at, I think many of us have seen, if you look at road traffic accidents on our road here generally, looking at what happens to a fellow human being on the ground based on the impact of the accident. If you're not strong, some people scream, somebody collapses, yes. And surprisingly, I go down. I don't know why, because this is somebody who was so much attached to me. Yes. And both of us are rushed to the hospital. I wake up and I find this guy on life support. I begin asking questions of all the people. Why him? Why can't it be his dad? Why can't it be an elderly person? You have an aspect of self-blaming.
Yeah.
You ask yourself, where I wish I have done this. I asked myself, I think I had the power to stop him, but I could not do it, and it has happened. You blame, you have self-blaming, and now when you have, I started feeling this self-blame. I lost totally. It reached a point, I think the only thing I remember are 2 words I could say. Yes, he's called Vincent. I would say, Vincent? Really? And those were the 2 words. It became, by the I had to be reached up to Butabika. Yes, I was linked to Butabika. I got a therapist who had to support me in terms of recovery, because he stayed in a hospital for 3 days and he died. Yeah, so it broke me down. I actually, when I came back, I told people at home, I'm not going back to school. I want to go back to school, because if I go back to school, I just have the facial expression of him. Yes. Even I go to sleep, and in the night I scream. I wake up from my sleep and I am screaming. I'm telling somebody that, please help me. I am shouting in his name, and I'm asking this because I feel his life is going from my hand. Yes. So to the point, as I said, I had to reach to have an assistant from the therapist. And at the end of the day, of course, I went through sessions of being talked to, being guided, and it took me about 4 weeks to get out of that situation. It was really bad. Yes, I felt so bad, and up to today, every time I get to, because it happened in August on the 14th. So every year, August 14th, reminds me of that situation. And it, because people had posted it on social media, media also keeps reminding you of, yes, like somebody's time and all that. So every time I see that, I get down, I tear a bit, yes. But I begin telling myself that, of course, through also friends who keep reminding me that, no, it's not only you. There are those that have had encountered quite worse than what you have encountered. Yes.
And just maybe to add before you come in, again, a reminder to people that are listening in, the fact that she is able to come out of the situation, that all the many things that she have gone through, and the fact that I believe many other people were able to come out of whatever that they've gone through that really broke them down, is them opening up to someone. So I think the call out there to everyone is that you are not alone in this journey or in this fight. You need to look for that one person. At least all of us have that one person, either in our family or either in our friends, that we always feel okay when we talk to. So I think the best thing to do is you need to look for that one person. However heavy load that you're carrying, look for that one person opens up to. It is only when you opens up that you will be able to accept that it actually happened. Yeah, and before you open up, before you go to that opening up, you need to accept that actually this thing happens. It happened because that is actually what I did. When I had the accident, I fell down. I just saw my leg already like broken. I pull it together and I be like, okay, I think this have happened now. So I pull, because I did a little bit of first aid. So I pull my leg together because I don't want the bone to come out. I don't want a wound because it was internal fracture. I already see like the bone pinch bit of my skin and it's like about to come out. So I have to put it together. And I asked the friend around, I'm like, hey, please help me with any small sticks, piece of wood, let me tie my leg. I was not having anything, so I removed the back, the holder of the back. I was carrying a camera. We were going to do film shooting, so I picked the holder of the back and I start tying it. And also that in that process, actually my phone was stolen. The same people who brought to me the stick, they stole my phone. But I accepted that actually this thing happened. That was after some few nights of reflecting, because I can sleep like this and then I would just jump away from my bed and be like, and then I realized actually my leg is down. So when you start accepting that actually this thing happens, and it is not happening to you because you are chosen, but it happens to you because nature sometimes drives some of the settings. It's not in your power to stop it. Sometimes we put the blame, as you have said to ourselves, we put the blame and we think like, I think if I had done this, it would have not happened. But we start accepting that this thing happens. We look for that one best person, friend, and we talk to. Even sometimes, if you feel like going to open up to talk to that person, it still feels a little bit heavy. You have a mirror in your room. Go face the mirror. Let that person be your partner. Talk to that person. Be like, hey, I come to you. It's like if you're doing prayers, like I sometimes have that kind of prayer, which is also something that really supported me a lot. I go to prayers and I talk to myself. I be like, Jesus, I've come again with another exciting news or even another bad news. I come to you because I know you're the best friend. Because religion plays a bigger role also in that kind of process. When we feel like our world is shutting down, try to look for that little window. Go for that prayers. Prayers, some people feel like when we start praying right now, it will not be answered now. No, I think the fact that you don't accept that actually in your heart, if I talk this thing out, I will feel relief. It adds to you. Let me take maybe a little bit back. When after we left, we were chased out from my uncle's house. We were given 24 hours to leave the house. We did all the plan that we can with my brother. We got a house for rent. We rented. We moved there. I feel desperate and I need to be heard. So I joined a gang group. And I can tell you that I lead a group of about 120 gang leaders, well organized on. And I feel like, I think that is why I feel I get the power. I can be heard. But then slowly I ask myself, is this really the life that I want to live? Is this really what I wanted to become tomorrow? And then I left all this thing down. And I found a purpose for myself. I found a reason to live because I have those people that depends on me. Today or tomorrow, next tomorrow, they're there. So it's either you make the right choice or you continue letting this thing weighing you down.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Emmanuel. Yes, our broadcast time is 41 minutes past the hour of 4. Listen of iRadio, if you have questions you want to ask our guests in the studio on stress, trauma, and depression, you can call us right now on 0911 or 0922986986. Those who are also following the program from the Facebook live stream, you can drop your comments and your questions there for our guests. And so let's look at the challenges in accessing treatment for depression, trauma, or stress in South Sudan. I understand there is a psychiatric department in Juba Teaching Hospital, but are there other centers here in the country that looks into mental health or mental illness in general? If you can share with us. But before that, let's pick this call. iRadio. Okay, sorry, you can still call us back on the same number. Yes, Anzo.
Yeah. They are quite, ideally, we are supposed to be having, I should say, all the primary health care units that we have, including the hospital, should have a section that is specifically looking aspects of mental health. But if you look at our country as a context, it's quite challenging. I think one of the unique thing about us here, by the way, in handling mental health issue is, at one point somebody asked me, why should a person who has any mental health issue be taken to the prison? Yes, that was a question I was asked, and I kept having this feeling that why is it somebody would feel like, if now generally if you move even the society, a person who presents with any form of any mental issue is taken to what?
Prison.
To the is taken to the prison. And now the question is mental health issue a crime?
That's a big question.
That is one thing I people always ask, because for me, maybe my depression came as a result of a stressing factor, and it has broken me down. Yes, I may manifest with all the I should say I would manifest, or I will have symptoms that would make me to become harsh in the community, but I don't need to be taken to the what? To the prison. So having the mental health I should say the mental health aspect or care being placed in the prison becomes it gives a very different impression. Yes, because somebody who even manifests with a very minor state would have a feeling that no, obviously I'm going to be taken to the prison. So the main in South Sudan, accessing the treatment for depression and trauma is quite challenging due to our limited resource, the stigma, lack of also trained mental health professionals, and coupled with the ongoing effect of the conflict and displacement we have, it becomes very challenging, because when we look at also this treatment or care, somebody needs to have a routine and follow-up. But looking at now, imagine somebody has been in Upper Nile undergoing care, and because of the situation, you have to run to a different location. What happens? You cannot be helped on routinely. So I was trying to look at an overall study that says about, if you look at generally Juba, we have about 36% of our sample population, okay, they meet the criteria for post-traumatic stress disorder. Yes, which is the PTSD. And in addition to this, the rate of the mental health disorder keeps imagining, it keeps coming out, as earlier on Emmanuel had said, in terms of what causes it or what brings it out. So the low levels of our resource allocation to mental health services limits this ability to reach the affected population. And if you look at, when I talk about the limited resource and infrastructure I've just mentioned, we really don't have a set along facility that looks at care and treatment. Yes, they are integrated into other programming, but having a specific center that looks at this care is not there. Let me just give an example of, let's go to Nyokron PHCC. Yes, if imagine someone has a clinical sign of depression and goes there, you are told, no, go to Juba Teaching Hospital. And you go to Juba Teaching Hospital, they tell you, no, we are managing outpatient, okay? We are treating this person from the OPD. And maybe this person needs maybe even retraining. He or she needs to undergo a treatment that requires monitoring. You are told, please go to Juba prison. Yes. So those are one of the aspects. We have a scarcity of our mental health services, where we have several shortage of mental health facilities, and also limited number of trained personnel that offer the services. Okay. I don't think we have good numbers of psychiatrists around, but where to exercise their duties is a problem, the facility. Then we have uneven distributions of our of the area. You find that accessing some of these services from those how do I say, for example, in Juba is easier, because even we have private facilities that can offer these services. But imagine somebody who is in one of the states, okay, let's say had to reach area, yes, and there is no stationed services or stationed personnel who are there offering these services. Yes, I know the NGOs are trying to capture, but it doesn't reach the percentage, and many of these people are left in the society when they cannot access the care and the treatment. And then we have also, of course, now the lack of funding, that the low levels of resource allocation to specifically have these services reach, then insufficient infrastructure, that is where we have further that hinders access to some of this care. We have stigma and culture barriers, and I think we have spoken lengthily about this aspect of this stigma. Somebody with a mental health issue in the society, people isolate, okay, a lot. Very many of them. Just take your time and get into the hellas and understand these teenagers, okay. You find this young girl, like one of I should say is where I stay around, we have a girl who is having she has epilepsy, and she has not been undergoing treatment. It has advanced, okay. She gets episodes of seizures, and it has an impact on her mental, like speaking. She's not well oriented of her environment. Even her speech is uncoordinated. She's unkept oftentimes in the household. But when she comes in a gathering, people start saying, don't mix with us, Yes. So that aspect of the stigma itself, and then the cultural barrier that brings it out. People associate mental issue with how do I say, juju,
taboo,
and taboo. Yes. Maybe there was a wrongdoing. Okay, I remember I went for I went for a technical training in I was in Malawi, and one of the psychiatrists was sharing an experience of how people perceive in their society mental issues, okay, among youth. They have a feeling that maybe these parents have done a very offensive aspect in the society that has now originated onto this child. It has come onto this child. You know, it's a punishment that the family will get because they might have not pleased the gods. You know, yes. So that cultural barrier, that the perception we have, we find now people, even instead of taking the person to a facility, this person is taken to the traditional healer.
Yeah.
Yes. And people do a lot of things. They go and do how do I say, sacrifices. You are told now, you know, because of interest for money, the herbalist would say, please bring a black goat and we do this and all that, you know.
Okay.
So those are some of the really aspect of the stigma. I mean the cultural barrier that brings out of course.
Okay.
And just maybe to add on here, you know, those myths and taboo actually also cross-cut here in South Sudan, and we have them a lot. And ours sometimes is linked to, for example, maybe this person, like the revenge killing and the cattle raidings and all these things. They say that some of those things actually linked with those things. So the person have done a lot of bad thing to someone. That is why this person is now experiencing it towards the child or towards or something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much, Emmanuel. We are left with a few minutes actually to be finishing with the program. I'm just going to go through some of the comments on our Facebook live stream.
Okay.
And we have Galerio Di Viper. He says, a very educative program, watching you guys live from Newside. Thank you so much. We have Matthew Matayo. He says, very interesting program. I'm watching live from Luri. We have Osama JC Moses. He says, I'm watching from Ganyel, Panjar County, Unity State. Thank you so much. And we have Ezra Tedro Baya. He says, yes, Emmanuel, the accident was a nightmare to all of us, the wife family. That was stressful. We thank God our prayers worked. Watching you all live from Good Delhi.
Thank you,
Okay,
Ezra.
thank you so much. We have Atak Aiwel. He says, I'm watching live in Hayamara. Thank you very much. And then we have Glario the Viper. He has a question for Emmanuel. He said, how can one overcome such trauma and depression when actually being let down, especially to the youth? They are being overpressured with their parents. So this question is for you. Just Emmanuel, in 1 minute, make it a bit brief because we are left with 2 minutes.
Hey, the Viper. You know, with the too many pressure that is waging you and every youth in South Sudan, including myself, we need to accept that actually these pressures exist. And you need to know also that you are not alone in this. We are all there. Everyone, your loved ones are there. And also you need to know that these things are temporary. They should not define who you are. This pain should not define you. This pain, you need to acknowledge that it is real. But also you need to acknowledge one thing, that actually healing is also real. So the fact that this pain is real, you can also heal out of it. And you need to open up. Find someone whom you love talking to, someone whom you know when you talk, the person can listen to you without judgment. You need to know that there is a safe place that you can actually go to and talk to. And then also maybe some few takeaways, tips for you is one, or to any other youth who is feeling weighed down, you exercise a lot. It takes away your mind from thinking through certain things. And also try to practice some mindfulness. I always love breathing exercise, where you can sit down, just quiet, close your eyes, try to take some deep breath while you close your mind. Imagine all those terrible things. Take a deep breath, inside with it, and try to release them out of your mind. And try to listen to something, music or something that makes you happy, or dance or something like that. And maybe last but not least is you need to always be happy, acknowledge self-love, love yourself, and be happy that you exist, be happy that you actually wake up every morning, be happy to yourself. And then that way you can slowly, gradually relieve some of those things.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much, Emmanuel, for that. And I'm going to give Anzo a chance maybe to share how can families, communities, workplaces, schools, and also the government, what role can they play in promoting a better mental health environment for everyone? With your last message as we conclude, make it short and brief because we're out of time.
Yes, for the family, I think the best they can do is to create a safe and supportive environment for an individual in terms of the emotional support, and it's so that someone has a feeling of belonging. Okay, I will feel safe that I am part of the family. And then of course also encouraging healthy habits, as Emmanuel has just said. Yes, engage in this exercise, okay, in the family, that you can be able to promote your physical well-being, and then the health, the mental as well. For the community, we have to reduce the aspect of stigma. Okay, yes, we should have to accept that, as he said, accepting the status you are in, it has happened, take it positive, and then at the end of the day, you would be able to move on. So the community must reduce the aspect of stigma, and then they should be able to look at also providing an accessible environment if somebody happens to have such. At workplace, we have to prioritize our well-being as an individual. You make yourself first, take yourself first before the work. I used to have a boss who used to say, please, don't die because you have a workload. Okay, don't deny yourself to take a meal because you have a lot on table, because you will have an implication that comes as a result of not taking the meal in time, and this work will be performed by somebody at a certain point. So please mind your well-being at work, prioritize your well-being, and then we should also promote a life balance at work. Okay, yes, you have to not concentrate only the work but also the social aspect of the life. Yes, if it means going to club, please do so, as long as it has do not abuse what is within the social aspect of integrating. Then for, of course, looking at the government, one big thing I would echo is investing in our mental health care services. Yes, we need to look at how we can best allocate resource to bring out the mental health services in our society. And then we should also, the other thing I'll talk about is promoting mental health awareness in the society. Yes, as well as developing some guiding policies that really looks at how best somebody with a mental issue can be handled in the society. Yeah, so those are basically what I would really see that should come out in terms of role playing in this aspect of mental health. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Anzua. Thank you, Emmanuel, for the interesting tips.
Thank you so much.
And to you, listener of iRadio, for following up, and all those who dropped their questions and comments on today's program. And also I would love to thank our sign language interpreter, that is Adede Pascaline. And we meet again next time on another discussion right here on the Zone 72. Have a nice evening.